Okay, I optimized a little bit. I looked at the wood I had. Some of these I can get a double off. That one's broken, but I can get like, if I do 2.5, which is right there, about where that white dot is. If I do 2.5, I get 2 for these big boards. And I still only get 1 off these more skinny boards, unfortunately. But I wanted enough clearance. So 2.5 is right here. So if I'm drilling here, I've got, you know, this is 1 inch, so 2.5. I've got at least 1/2 inch, so 3/4 inch on both sides of the drill. So they're going to give me enough strength to, you know, make sure it doesn't break at the circle, at the center point. Yeah, and so I'm losing, you know, some of this extra wood. It's maybe not the most efficient use of, because I'm cutting off about, you know, right here, I'm cutting off about that much on this board. But also, I chose to cut that. I mean, I could have not cut these at all, ripped them at all, and just split the big ones. But the problem is I had a fair number of breaks like this, and I found that the 2.5 was a good compromise to losing some wood, but also getting rid of and saving as much of the broken wood as I could. So I'm ripping everything, and that's what it looks like. Anyway, again, how do you do that? Well, you need a table saw or something like it. And so I'm setting this on a 2.5, and then you just, you know, I check 2.5 on this side of the blade. I want this side of the blade because this is going to get cut out and leave a void in the wood, right? So I'm going to want 2.5 from this edge to this side of the blade on that side, up here at this end of that blade and at this end, and that'll keep this nice and straight, even if it's an old cheap thing like I'm using. That's it. All right, I'm having to rip all these things down to 2.5 is what I chose to go, because my drill bit's a 1. It gives me just enough clearance on both sides. Using the kill switch. That's a little grabber. Actually use that board to hold this one down, but can't do it in videotape. But no, I'll use this little grabber. I'm going to let this drop because I only have one hand. Then I take these. I'm not really caring about the width. This one's a really weird one because it's like skinnier down here and pretty wide down here. Some of them are a little skinny in here. So you can see these are all different widths. I'm not too worried about that. Let's go rustic. It's going to be my style. And then I'm just generally putting them in the width that they are deliver. You can see like a board like this. Broken, so it's not. In fact, that's my worst one. I'm gonna take it out. I think I've got enough without it. I'll bring it in if I need it, but I'm generally putting these in the width of what can be used. Looks like I got off a little bit here, but these up here just have some breaks. They're not quite thick enough, so all that's getting cut off the end. So it's really only usable. It's that little piece up by the brick there. So, all right, well, I'm just ripping through all these boards, getting this to be somewhere close to the length. See if I can keep this from rolling. There we go. Think for this. Now, some of these boards are I'm going to cut in half, so I'm going to get double length off of those. And if I don't have enough, I'll just go get some more pallets. All right, so I trimmed all the ends of this, and this is my stack. Trying to go smallest to widest. Looks like a bell right now. There's still some that are not quite potentially right, but we're close. This is feeling pretty good. This sticks as long as my pole is, so it's representative of my pole. so you can start to see the shape coming together. And the next thing I'm going to do is to draw a line along the sides. It's, you know, somewhat symmetric, but I don't think I'm going to do a complete symmetry. I'm not like into that complete perfect spiral thing. I think I'm going to make it a little more like a real tree. I don't know. Just before the big cuts, right? So, just to give you an idea, like, I started looking at these boards, and some had, you know, cracks and things I can't trust. And I can start to drill right here. This thing's probably going to fall apart, although, you know, it doesn't go all the way through. This is probably a board I could use. And I used an end cut, so I just come over here, pop, hit it, trim off the edge, get a nice 90 cut on them, and cut off all the, what I consider kind of questionable boards with the cracks and splits and so forth. Ended up with this pile. And now, I need to mark the, put them in top order, so that the top board is on the top. I need to mark the middle on each one of these, and I need to you know, then mark the middle of each board this way, and then so I can mark my hole, place to drill the hole, and we're going to go from there. So I'm kind of like wanting to stop right now and think about what I haven't thought about, because it gets kind of serious at this point. All right, I think I'll get these just a little more sorted order and quit for the day. Well, so I'm not doing this exactly the way everybody else has done online. I've seen on YouTube. But I'm going to go ahead and mark each board individually, the middle spot. I'm only going to make a tiny tick. This one I made a full line. I won't be doing that again. It's too much. I got to clean it up later. And then I drew this one again. I drew a whole line across the top and I've erased it, because I really only want to mark that middle section. So I mark the middle of the board, and then I take that tick and make a square, because that's where my drill bit's going to go. And I'm going to do that. And I'm also, on the bottom side, writing a number 1, because this thing could come apart. And I think having a number, and right now this one says 3, very hard to see. I'm going to have to clean that up. I think this is 2 here. I haven't done 2 yet. Here's 2. I got to put the check mark on top of 2. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that, and it's going to be a little bit of a pain, but I feel like I like that approach better. All right, diving in. I realized I probably should show you how I'm turning the center. By the way, centimeters, and we all use inches and stuff in America, but centimeters is actually way more efficient for this kind of thing, because you're going to go, okay, this guy's just a little more than 24, maybe 24 and a half, so you come back to 12 in a tick, 12 in a tick, and so that's where I put that mark. Now for the middle, I'm going to do a little different. I'm going to use one of these. And by the way, if you do any home decor, any kind of DIY or whatever, this little plastic triangle, I've used it in so many ways, like building fences, working on boats, you know, making crafts, or, you know, woodworking projects. You get the 90 degree on it, you get a 45 degree on it, you got a little ruler. It's also got this thing, like certain situations, it's nice to be able to etch with that, and you can hang it with a nail for like getting a fence post angle right when you're putting on the side horizontal pieces. Let me move this out of the way for a second. So anyway, get one of these. They're probably one of my favorite tools of all the. This is a messy dock, but, like, you know, I got tons of tools. This is one I use constantly. All right, so I have a little mark here that happens to be like just a little bit past what the middle is for this board, based on it running against this ledge. So if you slide this, is like that's the middle all the way across. So I'm going to come right to my line here. Right here, I got at the bottom. Line this guy up. Then I'm just going to put a dot right here. I'm going to put a cross, actually. That's all I need to do. I'm going to take, you know, an inch drill bit and put through that. So it's going to lose that much wood when I do it. And, you know, actually, because I'm talking to you on the phone, I probably made that a little high. It probably should have been maybe a millimeter lower than that. But, you know, I think that's going to be fine for this rustic tree. All right. So, get you a triangle. Good stuff. I have two of them, to be honest. One at the river. Bye. All right, I decided I'd go ahead and drill all these boards. I'm going to pull them up, measure them and all that. Go ahead and put the drill hole in it. And I'm just showing you that this 1-inch drill is essentially the same as, you know, this dowel. It's like this one came off an old curtain rod that we had in the house when we bought it. It had wooden dowels, and we took one of the windows out, built on, added to the house, and you know, I had this pole, so I'm going to try it. The paint might get messy. It's an old oil base, so I might end up getting another dowel. But these are essentially closet dowels. You can get them at any of your home improvement stores. You can technically make them if you wanted to. And what I'm going to do, now that I have the right drill bit, try to set this stuff down for a second. Get this dowel out of the way. Put it in my scrap pile. You can see at the moment, my scrap pile, after all that ripping, is huge and all over the place. But what I'm going to do, just made a quick little jig. I just didn't want to drill through my table here, so threw a couple of pieces of wood equal size, put them far apart, enough for the drill to just go right through it. So we're going to drill our first one. Now, I'm using my battery, and if you don't know, so my has a 1 and a 2. 1 is a slower speed, so it's better for screwing, and then when you're drilling, use the higher speed. So let's just see if I can do this one-handed. I want to get it right in the middle. It's the very first one. There we go. Perfect. Ready? Yeah, my jig holds up. And once you start drilling, you can tell if you're going too evenly by how much wood's going away. It's dull. I gotta go through a lot of boards. I'm not happy with this. I'm gonna have to, I think I'm gonna rethink my jig. This is a little wobbly up here. And also, if you don't want to splinter, a trick I learned a while back, I try to remember, don't always, is once you have the hole through, the tap hole through the bottom, you can turn it over. God, man, I can't do this one-handed. I have to work on a better jig if I'm going to do that many boards. But also, you know, once you've lost the hole, yeah, okay, I can't. Hold on a second. What I was saying was, once you dig in, because this tap on these things gets wider and wider, the hole will get wider, which will give it more play, which means you could, if you're not, you don't want to go so deep here that when you start back here, your hole's already wide, because you want to get in under this lip, because this edge will hold itself in place once you're in this hole, right? But if your hole gets too wide and you start on this side, you'll bounce across because it won't have anything to catch it. So you want to do this earlier than later. As soon as it has a hole, flip it over, drill a little bit, because what this does is keeps all this splintering from happening at the very top level, because once you pop through, it'll splinter the crap out of it, and you'll have, you know, rips down on the side. Now this is going upside down on a tree, so it's really not that important, but it you know, it's just a cleaner way to drill it, and you're going to have to drill both sides anyway, so that's a kind of a trick. Let me go ahead and finish and I'll show it. So I got through, and I still, for some reason it splintered a little bit when I was starting here. Possibly because I was videotaping and not holding it and things like that. But again, this backside really doesn't matter. And the front's pretty clean. And, you know, you can clean all this. You could sand all that out. But frankly, unless I need to, I'm not going to, because I got too many of these to cut. Now the question is, does this thing actually go in this hole, or do I need a bigger one? And I was afraid of that when I was testing this. They were too close. And this thing's actually bigger. So I'm going to need something more than a 1 on this. I'm going to need like a 1 1/4. 1 1/8 would probably be best. So I'm going to have to practice some other boards, get that right. And I probably should have done that before drilling my lovely top piece, because that actually is a decent looking piece of wood in this scheme of things. All right, let's move on. Live and learn. Now I've gotten a 1 1/8 out, and we're going to test and do it on a test board because our wisdom is showing up as we go. This will also allow me to show you how it splinters on the backside because I'm not going to take it off and flip it. Okay. And good news is that's a sharper blade too. So hopefully this will be the right size, and I already have one. You can see that splintering, that's where it ripped. You can see the rip right here, and that's an example of the splintering I was talking about. Sometimes it's much worse than that, pronounced. All right, let's take an odds here. What's your, write in the comments, do you think it's going to fit or not? It's really questionable. Oh, all you doubters, look at that. Look at that, fits perfect. So now we know what we're doing. Got a 1 1/8. Should have done that first. Don't live in your regrets. Move forward. All right, I'm gonna do something that I don't expect to work here. We're gonna try to take this 1/8 and drill out this hole. And this is damn near impossible. I think I've done it once or twice. So I'm gonna try to set you up so you can watch. I'm gonna get you set up, hold on. All right, this is 2, but it started with 0, so it's the 3rd, because I'm a Python programmer. This is the 3rd one, number 2. And you'll see that I think this one's a little more lined up. There's a curve right there, so it's kind of hard to tell. I brought it just a little bit further back in the scheme of things. So I think we're down on our 3rd attempt. We're finally in the middle, which means I'm going to take this red Sharpie. I'm going to put a new mark on this. So using the new mark, you look at distance here to here. We'll go from that little tick to that one. And I'm going to go with, you're not probably seeing what I'm doing, but go with that one to that tick. Yep, that looks almost perfect. So we have got our spot. It took us 4 in. We're just going to go faster now. And okay, I've redone my drill jig over here. This first piece is going to be one that doesn't work here. But now we have these. We can push it up against those tips. And these are slide clamps, and these have handles. And I would tell you that these handles, and I don't know if Quick Grip, and I don't want to necessarily drive that product, but I tell you, I've had these, I don't know, 20 years, and they work great. So I definitely can recommend that brand. But and I definitely recommend the squeeze grips. What you do, I got to fix this one. The rubber is sliding off, so you just push this button here, and that gives it loosens the grip on it. Then you just squeeze the handle like so. And I'm using my table saw as a table to hold it all. Now, I don't know how tight I am, but these are on here really tight now. So should hold it. We're going to do our markings and get our stuff over here, triangle, and our pencil, and get started back. Oh, sorry, I forgot that was vertical. And our coffee. Gonna get our coffee back and get going. All right, I've been talking too much because I forgot to flip it over, and I thought this would give you a better example of the kind of stringy, splintery damage that happens if you punch right through. And again, it's not going to matter because it's on the bottom, but it's a better example of, you know, it's not very finished looking if you're doing something that paper towel holder or something like that, and both sides matter. All right, moving on. Talked about that citrus stuff and whether it was good or not. This is to show you what I mean. Like, this was on here 20 minutes, 15 minutes, and it didn't do anything. It's like just coming right up. We got this one little spot here peeled. Didn't even do it around that spot. Looks like that. Like sticks in just a couple. I mean, it just wasn't worth it. I mean, stripper that should have been all bubbled up all the way up and down. We'd get that old stripper and it would come off. I think I'm gonna might just be doing something like this. Let's see if this works. I'm gonna try to hold it. Yeah, let me do it over here. Okay, just a little brute force with the steel wool. Let's see what that does. Yeah, it's not gonna work either. It's on there pretty good. How does it work on the stripper spot? I mean, it did something, but for a really expensive product, 20 minutes, you know, I kind of expect a little more progress than that. I don't know what I'm going to do. I have to get something to clean it with. Doesn't look like it's going to come off easy. It's going to come off. All right. Since I'm not going to strip it today, I'm going to go ahead and put all these on as I'm doing them, and I'm going to draw the geometric line that I'm going to cut, and I'll take them all back off. Oh, it looks like they're all going a lot easier after this first one. So let's, is that just that first one didn't get cut as wide? This is when they get to the paint is what it is. Looks like they're going to take the paint off. Well, let's try that. I'm going to have to get that off before I can assemble it. So with a painter's tool, the circular part, going like this, I scraped off all this paint. I remember now that the white is a latex that got put on an oil. It did have primer, but it's peeling pretty easy, which is very popular when you put latex on top of oil. And then after I scraped it, I sanded it with some pretty rough sandpaper just to break it all down. I'm still gonna treat this with something like stain. Not sure what yet. I'm not sure what I'm gonna put on the top. I'm not sure if that dowel is gonna stay or that little cap. But for now, it's all sanded down, dusty, and ready to have these guys start to go on, I think. Let's see how easy they go on now. That's the top. And still fights it a little bit. Yeah, still fighting me. How's that second one? They're both going to fight me. I think I'm going to quit. All right, second one. Second one's going on pretty good till we get right there. All right, we're going to see what happens. Okay, I gave it a little spin. These aren't cut to width yet, but starting to see the shape. All right, well, it is done, and this thing's heavy. I don't know, probably 40 pounds. And just important to note that this pole running down the middle really is just pushing its limit on. I mean, if you try to pick it up sideways, you're probably going to crack that pole. These might help support it in structurally, but you know, I'm picking it up from the middle when I'm picking it up, and being really gentle with it. And these obviously will start to move on you if you got too few, you know, it'll collapse on you. So just be extra careful as you're starting to work with the whole product. All right, well, I'm gonna now draw my lines. We're making good progress. You can see it's starting to fill out. I just got a couple feet left. We just did this set. And like I said, I decided to go ahead and drill all the holes, get it on the board, and then I'm going to you know, on this board and this pole, and then I'm going to draw my Christmas tree line on both sides, and then take them all off, cut them, and put them all back on again. I know that seems maybe excessive, but I think that's going to give me the effect I want. All right, so now we just got to finish up that pile and make a base for it, cut all the sides, and, you know, we're done down to determine how to clean and stain or whatever we're going to do. All right, well, I haven't cut it yet. Kind of question if I am going to cut it, because it looks pretty good like this. I don't necessarily want it to be like a pristine geometric shape. I like it to look more like a tree. But I will tell you that it is really heavy, and I'm a little worried about the hole it's going into. I might just, it's a little big, because if I move this around, you see this thing wobbles, and you know, it's like 50 pounds sitting on something like this at the bottom. So I think maybe I need to get some felt, because it's a little big, and I'm going to drill it a little deeper and then let the felt kind of manage the balance of it, I guess. Hopefully that'll help it come in and out. But I think I might quit and let my wife, see this and then decide what else I'm going to do to it, because I kind of want to clean it. I don't want to put it back together and take it back apart again 2 times. And she's probably going to hang ornaments or something from these. So maybe little hooks. I don't know. But let's call it quit. Phase 1 quit. I'll actually do the rest of the base and show you that. Starting to see it take shape. Kind of cool. All right, well, I showed this to my daughters, and they said to go ahead and cut this. Don't wait to show it to my wife. Go ahead and cut the edges. So I did go ahead and cut it, and I also numbered from the bottom, because that was easier for me. 13, 12, so 13 goes on next, 12 goes on after that, and I got a few more left. So this is what it's looking like. It's not like a spruce cut, like we don't live in Scandinavia, so this looks more like a tree around here. Yep, so I'm sliding these puppies on, and then we'll be done with about 8 more boards. Now, what I've learned since doing this is that this is an old board, but it's pine. It's like still loose pine, like it wasn't a tight pine, tight cut part of the wood, whatever. Hardwood, good piece of wood. And it's flexing a little bit under the weight of this thing. I think it's a lot better now that I cut some of it off. And I do believe that these, because they're, you know, essentially bringing structure to this pole every half an inch or an inch here, that's helping it also stay okay. But yeah, you just can't horizontally pick this thing up very much without risking cracking this guy. All right, a few more of these. Some want to go on, some don't. Check my number. Yeah, going counting down. And the boards are all sorts of different shapes and sizes as far as imperfections, colors, and so forth. And, you know, it seems to be working okay for that. I did put, I'll call fuzzy side up instead of this side, because this side is a little, I don't know, I don't think it's as cool looking. This will collect dust easier, but I feel like it's aesthetically a little nicer on the finished product. All right, there you go. It's all put together. And yeah, it's not like perfectly even all over, and I'm not too worried about that. I think it's the way trees look. Like that one could have been a little shorter, but looks pretty good. I think it's going to do fine. I'll give you a shot on Christmas Eve when we reveal it. All right, here's what the final product looked like. was delivered today at our Christmas Secret Santa opening, but brought out here because it's got a little 2-year-old running around, and I wasn't sure if this thing was sturdy enough yet to take on the bumps.